You're watching Into Wine TV, and today we're talking about the drinking age and whether or not that's something that we think should be lowered. Michael, what are your opinions on that?
That's a kind of a volatile topic, but first off, I have to say I don't have kids. My wife and I do not have children, so for us it's a little bit of a different issue. For me, the greater issue is not so much changing the drinking age. It's really properly educating people about why they're drinking. My concern in this country is that people drink for no real reason, and it doesn't matter what age. People are drinking to get drunk. They're drinking because it's a social drug. And whereas that's good and well, I have found that there is just such a complete lack of education about the effects of alcohol on the human body. So to lower the age from, or to change it from 18 to 21 or back and forth, I don't even think that's kind of splitting hairs. The issue is, for me, again, without children, is how do we educate people about why they drink, how they drink, because I think that's the greater issue, and especially why. I think people drink for reasons they don't understand, and it's become just a culture of, I can get wasted quickly. I know people who've shown up at work when I used to work for an architecture firm who were drunk. You could smell it on their breath. And these were not teenagers, this was a guy who was 35. And that concerns me that we are in a culture that just allows drinking and allows excess. So that's kind of my take on it. I do love the European model where it's part of the culture growing up. It is not taboo or restricted. I interviewed Mario Andretti a couple years ago, the great race car driver, and he grew up in an Italian family, and he was drinking wine when he was 5 or 6. Now, granted, they watered it down for him, and he admitted that to me on air, but it was so commonplace for children in Europe to have wine, and they don't grow up with that taboo. Here, we have such a taboo about alcohol so that it represses people, so they're drinking when they're 11.
So I quite agree that if you look at other countries, especially that have a long wine drinking culture, France, people are socialized into different types of drinking and appropriate drinking with food and balancing it in social situations and moderate drinking. Here, waiting until people are 21 misses out on a lot of that socialization. You miss out very much in the college years, which I think are important years for people to be learning from role models about, wine is maybe a healthier substitute than hard alcohol and the like, and it goes much more appropriately with food and how to drink it. I was fortunate to be able to do a lot of my studies abroad in college, so I did learn to drink at age 18 or so, a little younger. I didn't really think about it at the time, but the people who were teaching me about drinking and we were doing it at meals and the like were essentially socializing me into what's an appropriate way of drinking. To have people go through college, and only drink at wild parties and heavier stuff and drinking to get drunk, and not getting the benefit of that socialization, which can happen from a very young age, as you mentioned with Mario and families in Europe. I think we treat people who are 18 as adults for virtually all other purposes. Certainly they can go to war for us and get killed for us, they can get married, they can do all kinds of other things. Why is wine, such a scary thing that they have to wait additional more years till they're considered an adult for wine drinking purposes?
You actually took the point that I was going to lead with, which is you can take a kid, 16, send him to war, shoot people, defend the country, and he comes back to the barracks and he's not allowed to have a beer. In Iraq, the English army is allowed to drink beer, the Americans aren't. You're really suppressing adulthood. That I think America, unless Canada is too, but I think America is the only country in the world where the drinking age is 21. Everywhere else is at most 18.
Not counting the Muslim countries where,
well, of course, in Muslim,
there's no age.
Yeah, Muslim countries there's no drinking at all. There are lots of problems here. You learn how to drive before you learn how to drink. So people are driving, then they learn how to drink, and they get in their car and they don't know how to handle the car. So you should learn how to handle your drink before you're allowed to get into a car. In England, where I grew up, as is most of Europe, the drinking age is 5 in the house. That's a legal limit that a parent can give a child a glass of wine. I grew up drinking wine from the age of 7.
You missed out on 2 years there.
I know. When I reached 18 or whatever, the drinking age, in sorry, actually in England it's 17. With food, it's 16. At my high school, we had a beer club. So as soon as you reach 17, when you can drink without food, you were allowed to join the beer club. We had universities like Oxford and Cambridge have competitions between each other, wine tasting competitions, which are held each year. And they're winning these competitions before Americans are even allowed to taste wine. I think also it's a huge impact on the American tourist industry, because virtually no one under the age of 21 will choose to come on vacation in America. The English, almost all English who go to university take a gap year. They take a year off where they go traveling. They go to Australia, they go to Asian countries, they go all over the world. But the few who come here are so insulted that they're not allowed to drink. It's absolutely, if you suddenly allowed drinking, you'd have another 3 years worth of people coming here on tourism.
But that would be 3 years of teenage drunks coming here too.
No, because they're not drunks.
I think they're overall more responsible.
Yeah, look at the people in England. Okay, there are problems with those riots in England, the recent riots in England, which were not caused by alcohol. They were caused by social conditions, which are much greater than drinking. But 99.999% of the English kids, they go to the pub, they have a civilized beer with a civilized conversation. They don't have blaring music, which sort of encourages them to drink more. And when they come to America, they're not going to be going here getting drunk. They're just going to be going to a bar and having a drink just like anywhere else. And the problem is that because you have a taboo on making it 21, as soon as these 21-year-olds hit 21, they go out and get drunk, and this is the first time they've legally been able to drink, so they go wild. Whereas that doesn't happen in England. You go out to the pub for the first time legally at the age of 17 to have a drink.
Well, and what's interesting about that, what you had mentioned is, and I think that's kind of the broader concept, is you can drink with food.
Yes.
Which is fascinating, because I think in our culture it's like just have a beer, have a Red Bull, whatever. It doesn't matter, and it's not really associated with food. It's associated with getting drunk, and that's why I think our culture has to look at it not so much as an age issue, but as almost sort of a spiritual issue of what is it about this habit that is consuming us. And the other thing that I think is rarely talked about is alcohol has effects on your body. I drink a lot of wine. I'm a wine writer, but there are effects on my body. And I don't think we ever really discuss how does alcohol have a long-term effect on your body after 15, 10, 20 years, whatever it may be. And we don't really talk about that, because it does do things to us. How we can drink responsibly, and I don't mean I have one beer and put it down, but making sure we're hydrated, making sure we're eating food that goes with that, and thinking about it in a much broader context as opposed to a legal limit, which doesn't work.
But also drinking, promoting it as a healthy drink, because wine is a healthy drink. And I've been drinking, 42 years now. I've been drinking wine, and okay, do I look really fat? Do I look really ill? Is my liver shot? So far, so good. And I drink, a bottle of wine a day, probably, more or less. It's not an issue. And actually, the study just came out from Harvard, where they did a study of 14,000 nurses, and they established that 4 to 5 glasses of wine was beneficial to a middle-aged woman's life and health.
5
health
glasses
A day?
per day. And they're
nurses.
And a couple of weeks ago, I posted on my Facebook a copy of a Times interview, an article from the Times, which basically talks about how the suggestion that 2 glasses a day are what is a healthy level of drinking is based on zero fact. There's nothing saying that 4 glasses a day is bad for you. They just arbitrarily chose 2 glasses a day, and doctors don't dare say you can drink 4 glasses a day because they don't want to be sued. And then telling people they can't drink at all when they're pregnant is a crock of...
Well, I think it's tough because we're making a lot of generalizations here, and every teenager is different in terms of their responsibility level and what they've been exposed to in the house. So that makes a big difference as to how they're going to respond to alcohol.
That's a very good point.
So I think, the point of having the age a little bit older is that hopefully by then some emotional maturity has been established, and you can take the general masses and assume that they've at least developed enough to be able to make the right decisions, and they've had some time out on their own.
Except for the fact, and I disagree with that to the degree that alcohol in this country is considered a party drink. Unless you're in fine wine and you're having the wine with food and wine pairing and all that, and of course now we have whiskey pairings and tequila pairings and all that, which is great because that's bringing it back into the realm of food. Mm-hmm. But I still think that the way alcoholic beverages in this country are marketed are for young kids to get drunk fast.
I think
I think you may be right in saying alcoholic beverages, some alcoholic beverages, and alcohol pops and all those sort of things. But wine, I don't think that's the case. I think
certainly less so. I mean, people, it's not like, hey, I'm going to get drunk on a Chardonnay.
So America has grown up. America 25 years ago didn't have great reputation for
Today didn't really have a wine culture back then.
Yeah, or a food culture either. Today, America has a fantastic food culture, and it should have a fantastic wine culture. But the law of 21 is just, it's...
Let's take advantage of college years. Let's take advantage of being able to learn, how to drink responsibly at a much younger age, and either that or raise the age for marriage and going to war.
Yeah. And obviously be very tough on drink driving. That's a given.
And that's a huge problem.
And they are even tougher on that in Europe.
Yeah,
so
but it's
message.
No more of a problem with young drivers who are drinking than old drivers who are drinking. Old drivers who are drinking actually have more accidents than younger drivers who are drinking, apparently.
But again, it's because I think we have a culture, certainly in this country, that divorces alcohol from everything else. It treats it as a separate entity when it is related to how we drive, how we interact with other people, but we don't discuss that. We just discuss, we discuss it by itself in a sort of myopic format.
And the much bigger health issue in this country and around the world, including England, is
obesity,
mm-hmm. Fast food. At least if you've got McDonald's serving wine, the Happy Meal would be much happier.
I still probably wouldn't buy one, but
Well, they wouldn't be selling the right wine then. That's the problem.
Well, there's a lot of considerations in thinking about this issue, and thanks for weighing in on the subject. We would love to hear your thoughts as well, so please send us some comments and let us know what you think about lowering the drinking age. Thanks for watching Into Wine TV, and we'll see you next time.